More than 30 witnesses in our investigation have invoked their Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. And several of those did so specifically in response to questions about their dealings with Donald Trump.
That is a huge deal. Sometimes we repeat ourselves in the news, and I admit I'm doing it because I talked to Rachel about this last night. But that is absolutely remarkable. This is one of those things that, like, we don't usually get to know. Donald Trump already broke the record for the most indictments of aides in any first term of any modern president. And that was a big deal. Now you have 30 people in a formal process who are worried about being indicted, and not just for anything. I mean, being indicted is always bad, but being indicted related to the coup and the insurrection and the violent attempt to overthrow the government. And again, this is not just someone who you might say, oh, Bob, you know Bob, he's always worried about getting indicted. He's just like that. These are people with lawyers who went through a formal process. I could tell you, and I won't bore you with all the details, that you don't just invoke the Fifth. With a lawyer representing you, you have to figure out how and why you're doing it and whether it's credible. One of the requirements is that you have a reasonable apprehension of being criminally indicted. So how many people have that? 30 in and around Donald Trump's circle. And that's the context for the January 6th committee saying, with 30 people ducking questions, Donald Trump's going to have to come in himself, like any other human being under a lawful subpoena, trying to get the kind of testimony that these Trump insiders, again, because of they and their lawyers' asserted belief, not a lie apparently, but their belief that if they told the truth, they might end up going to jail.
I respectfully decline to answer your question on the basis of the Fifth Amendment.
I assert my Fifth Amendment right against being compelled to be a witness against myself.
Take the Fifth.
You believe the violence on January 6th was justified legally?
Fifth.
Fifth.
I will assert my Fifth Amendment right to decline to answer your question.
They have the right to invoke the Fifth because of potential criminal prosecution. But in Congress and in the public debate, this is not a criminal case yet. So why are 30 of Trump's allies doing this? And why is it already known so well throughout pop culture that when you do this, it doesn't usually look good?
I'm pleading the Fifth until I speak to my lawyer.
Upon the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer your question based on my rights under the Fifth Amendment.
I plead the Fifth.
Did he tell you where he was on the day McAllister was murdered?
I plead the Fifth.
I plead the Fifth.
Miss Morrison is just your name.
I invoke my right against self-incrimination as afforded me by the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution.
So we know all about it. And there's a lot of skepticism. We touched on this last night with Andrew Weissman and Maya Wiley. People say, oh, Donald Trump, he runs from everything. He talks tough, or he defies, or this and that. But it was under a year between the New York Attorney General subpoenaing him and him coming in, where he actually did comply with the subpoena. As we've reminded you, you do have rights, but you can't just duck out and never show up. That's what got Steve Bannon convicted. He's awaiting a jail sentence for that. Well, Trump didn't do a full Bannon. Apparently, he's too worried about that kind of conviction. And so in New York, he did show up, and he sat for his deposition. And what did he do? Do you remember? Well, he became the first former president to ever plead the Fifth. We're joined now by the New York Times Magazine writer Emily Bazelon, a Yale Law School fellow. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
I made the distinction. They have that right. But these hearings are about evidence, they're about legislating, and they're also about the public deciding, gosh, if people can't truthfully answer what their role was in the attempted coup without incriminating themselves, are those the people you want to give power back? Do you want to put, as I mentioned higher in the show, do you want to put them in charge of the military or the Secret Service or guns? Or do you want to maybe factor this in? So what did you think of the power of this? And did 30 seem like a high number to you?
Oh, 30 seems like a high number. I think it is smart of you to frame it in political as well as legal terms, because usually when people take the Fifth Amendment, they're the ones on trial, right? And the criminal threat to them is clear. Here, this is more hypothetical. I might say something in this congressional proceeding that could then put me in danger of an indictment. And that is a little more removed. And so it's unusual. It doesn't have the same sort of implication. It's also different from what Trump did because he took the fifth in a civil enforcement action. And there it's a kind of dangerous, in some ways, thing to do. You're sparing yourself from the possibility of an indictment based on what you might say truthfully under oath. But you also give the judge in the civil action a reason to take what you're not saying against you. In other words, it's a negative implication. Maybe you would say something that could help the civil enforcement action against you. These people, in this context of the congressional proceeding, they don't have to worry about that. So to a certain degree, it feels a little bit like a kind of free lunch to me that they took the fifth here. And I wonder what you think about that.
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, yes, free lunch. In the civil case, Trump's basically saying that if he told the truth about his business, he might be giving evidence that he committed a crime. All that tells you, if just within the four corners of it, is he might have committed business crimes. And that's between him and the people of New York and New York State, right? Here, it's people saying, yeah, they might have committed violent crimes in the coup. And then these are the people that want to, a lot of them, go back into office. So I don't think it's free lunch because I think that that's very important to draw those lines. And yes, there is a section or a part of MAGA that is anti-truth, and they're not going to look at any of this. And then there's a bunch of other people on Wall Street, moderates, Republicans, pro-life Republicans, and others who might actually still care because, you know what? You're not going to have much of your agenda working or much of your freedom intact if you find out that you're reelecting Team Coup. Because they are on the record about ending elections. That's literally, like, I don't mean to, you know, my thing is, Emily, I don't mean to sound like dramatic and histrionic. It's a Friday and people living their lives, but I'm just saying, factually, this is what they're about. And there's other places on earth where they've had elections for a while and then they stop having elections. Like, this does happen. Democracies do end. So I don't think it's a completely free lunch because I think people in the country may have to hear that and process it. And then, while the DOJ cannot use that evidence against them, it doesn't mean they can't wake up and say, gosh, if they and their lawyers think there's a lot of criming going on here, do we at DOJ want to act on it, Emily?
Yes, you're right. The way in which there's a potential cost here is either that the voters inflict a cost by holding this against a future Trump candidacy or other Republicans who would surround themselves with these same people. And then the second possibility is an indictment, that you are sort of baiting the Department of Justice to think that there's something wrong here and something they should investigate or pursue. And certainly we've seen the Department of Justice show greater interest in some of these people and in pursuing these actions surrounding January 6th to a degree that we did not see before the committee hearing, which, you know, you've been really covering a lot, which I really respect because I think it's a way of continuing to shine a light and asking people whether they think there should be a price to pay. Yeah,
because it's sort of like, it's sort of galling. This all happened out in public and it hasn't been fully dealt with in the way, I mean, again, it's a heavy Friday. Howard Dean was talking about how in a lot of places, treason is dealt with by execution and nobody's jumping ahead to that. But on the flip side, when no one is held accountable on the elite side, on the political side for the coup, that sends the message, basically, be careful if you're an oath keeper, but so far you're scot-free if you're a Trump coup plotter. And that seems exactly backwards. Hey, I'm Ari Melber. Thanks for watching The Beat. I wanted to let you know I'm writing a foreword to the January 6th committee's full report, which is coming out soon from HarperCollins. You can go pre-order the book right now, and it'll come to you first when the report comes out in the fall or whenever the government releases it. Just search Melber Jan 6th on Amazon or your favorite independent book site and click pre-order. You'll be the first to get both the report and my new piece on the coup conspiracy. You can also go to melberbook.com and order it there.